everyone. This is Lopan Yudron here from the Happy Garden of Practitioners in Oakland, California. And I'm so happy to be here with you today. Whether you're watching this, come in with me now, or whether you're going to watch at a later time, it's always good for me to feel like we're connecting. So feel free to message me after the fact if you have any questions. So today we're going to do something rather traditional. And I want to sort of introduce you to the way that Tibetan lamas or spiritual leaders teach the Dharma. The Dharma is broadly the essence of the teachings of the Buddha, but also more specifically texts. So if you see all this text behind me, I haven't read all of them. I'll just say right now. But they inspire me to be up there because I've read parts of them or I respect the author. Most of them the big ones up here, some there. These are pechas, long, thin slips of paper stacked one on top of another, which is what a Tibetan book was. They weren't bound. And the script ran across this way, lengthwise. It's a very effective way of doing things, and also you can give more information on the end of each end. Little ways to find things, and it's a very ingenious technology that was made through carving wood. What are we going to call them? Plates. And pressing them on paper, and that was like an early printing press style. Nowadays, they input them into computers and print them out at the printers, same way we do any other book. And some places are turning to bound volumes because they see the wisdom in that, and that's what we're used to, and they're easier to carry around, throw in your backpack, and so forth. We're very careful around Buddhist texts, because to keep our heart really alive and full of juice, we treat the books very special. We put them on a high place. We don't step over them. We certainly don't step on them. Even, stacking things on top of Dharma texts and images is not considered kosher. In fact, it's one of the things when you take refuge as a Buddhist, you say, I'm going to be a Buddhist now. You go through a ceremony. One of the scripts that the lamas go by, if you do that with an officiant, a lama, is not to how you treat texts, how you treat images of the Buddha. Now that you're a Buddhist, you treat them with respect. So we're not like most Buddhists. There are always some people out there. Most Buddhists are not like fundamentalists. Even if they have very conservative, traditional religious beliefs, they aren't going to go around freaking out because there's so much Buddhist imagery in popular culture. You try to frame it in a positive way. So occasionally in a really religious country, they will have a problem with the Buddha bar, for example. Amazing. I've been to a Buddha bar. It's a chain. So the way that if you were going to go to a Tibetan lama, the way he or she would teach the Dharma is most likely not an extemporaneous talk like what's called a Dharma talk in American Dharma centers, but instead opening up a book, reading you a line, and then clarifying it with you, which sort of doesn't match with American speed ideas, does it? It's kind of a slowpoke way of going. But then you're supposed to be paying rapt attention the whole time. So it's training in how to bring your attention back. In a way, it's a kind of shamatha. And training in being respectful to the teacher and so forth. So when your mind wanders, you're keeping your body still and you're bringing your attention back. I'm not expecting you to do this from me. I am merely a talking head on the internet, but that's how Dharma is taught in the traditional fashion. The Lama comes into the room, oftentimes will bow to the throne or the teaching seat, which is raised up, which totally makes sense because we will have our speakers raised up on a platform, right? You want everybody to see them. And also then they ornament it and think of it, and you think of it as like the Buddha's teaching seat when he taught the Dharma. So they, now the Tibetan tradition, they make it very beautiful with brocades and many colors. And maybe they'll, in this culture, they didn't have so many flowers in Tibet, but in this culture, they put lots of flower arrangements around it and just make it magnificent. So you value the knowledge that you're receiving, which is so precious. And why do I say, it's easy to just mouth those words, oh, it's so precious. But I've got to say, for me, this section that we're talking about now, I've kind of been going through in progressive fashion for the last year or so, where we're talking about the compassion and boundless compassion, is for me, I think if you could name anything about what really turned me into a Buddhist, it was the very idea that I'm going to be reading from a very 19th century, 20th century cusp, very conservative, religiously conservative, male, monk, extremely traditional. And what is this doctrine, this dogma that he's passing on? We have an allergy to dogma these days, don't we? The dogma is you shall have compassion for every living sentient being. It doesn't sound so deeply evil as the religious fundamentalists of some other cultures I could name, you know. And of course, you know, all religion has its upside and down, so I'm not trying to disparage anybody. Well, maybe some people who are really been misled to think that religion can justify harming or hating. This is not the case. And so I said before, I came to a decision point where I had to decide what Buddhism lays down for you, an invitation. Am I going to be somebody, as I said on my Twitter feed this week, it's always looking for out for number one, who's always, you know, if not number one, then me and my family and me and the people who I like and me and the people who do good things for me? Or am I going to have compassion and love and compassion for every single living being, and even beyond living beings, beings that I can't even imagine, that we don't even know exist yet? And, you know, there's new species being discovered every day. But just going with a principle of universal compassion. And what does compassion mean? It means you don't want anyone to suffer. You really, it doesn't mean necessarily always, it's, you know, there are exercises in feeling the suffering along with sentient beings, if you can handle it. And we may do a little bit of that today. But you don't always have to be, it has a sympathetic, like I feel what you feel kind of suffering. It doesn't always have to be that way. Holding the principle that I don't want to harm any sentient being, that's a fundamental of all kinds of Buddhism. But furthermore, every living being wants to be happy. Every living being wants to be free from suffering, no matter if you like them or you don't like them. To have that core value that I will feel this compassion, this wish that they will be free of suffering. Not being a doormat or pushover, manipulative people, but really a straight up lover and compassion sender. So there are a bunch of traditional ways to teach compassion, and I think since I've taught a lot about Tonglen, sending and taking, we'll instead focus today on the instructions that come down to us in a lineage of teachings. You see how I'm talking? To have the idea that a teaching on compassion is so precious that you carefully pass it on to your disciple, and then that disciple remembers who this teaching came from, who this practice came from, and then pass it on again to you, and to hold that in your heart, that I'm coming from people like that. I'm coming from people, you know, a family lineage is one thing. Recently, my cousin has been working with an African American family who's trying to find their ancestor, and somehow, while we don't have any typically African American DNA in our the genetic makeup according to these websites, they have some similar DNA, and so we're trying to work out. We thought for a while, she thought for a while she'd solve the issue about which relative was having what are we going to call it, a relationship? Was it with a slave? And it was way back. So probably, a slave owner, a slave, that's a typical relationship between whites and blacks, but back in the 18th century. But maybe not. Maybe it was rape or coercion, So that's kind of lineage. I don't need to claim any connection with that kind of lineage. We can choose our lineage. And here we're choosing to connect with these bodhisattvas, they call them, beings of awakening, awakened beings, are beautiful inside and out. And we can say, I got this teaching from Yudron, who was passed on, and her teacher, was a book. And that teacher got it from so-and-so, and treasure it. Treasure how to practice, so much more uplifting and valuable than anything else. This path of love and compassion equally. So maybe I won't get through these 3 pages today. Feel free to say hi if you want. This is called A Guide to the Words of My Perfect Teacher by Khenpo Ngawang Palzang, or Khenpo Ngaga. Some people knew him as Amazing Khenpo, scholar in Tibet. And he's writing a kind of supplement to Patrul Rinpoche's The Words of My Perfect Teacher, also known as the Kunzang Lame Shelung, the oral instructions of Shelung is oral instructions, Lame of the Lama, teacher, Kunzang, all good. And also Kunzang also means, as my Tibetan language teacher taught me, Kuntuzang could refer to Kuntuzangpo, a primordial Buddha, our original state of wisdom and compassion. No, we could just say total purity, our unstained state. So the Lama, the teacher could be Kuntuzangpo, of the Lama Kuntuzangpo, the oral instructions of the Lama, the teacher, our own unborn, primordially pure basis. Isn't that beautiful? But so there's multiple meanings in a title like that. Or it could just be like, this is what my Lama told me, so I'm passing it on. He was a good guy. Okay, well, it doesn't matter if we get through this today or not. Really, I think these are important points. I hope you do too. So here's what he says. In meditating on compassion, the approach of Apu and Lord of Atisha. Apu is cook. Apu is uncle. So Uncle Tatters was a nickname for Patrul Rinpoche, who was a character who traveled around in rags and was an incredible scholar, incredible practitioner, but kept his incredibleness on the down low in order because he was kind of a curmudgeon also, a loving curmudgeon who wanted to be left alone to practice. So that was passed on, and then Apu, Patrul Rinpoche, took this, also knew of the teachings of Atisha, who was a great Lama who came from, Guru, came from India to Tibet a long, long time ago, 11th century, I'm going to say. You guys can correct me if you want. That became the basis of the Kadampa school of Tibetan Buddhism. And then later, all schools can claim the teachings of Atisha as their own, but the Gelugpa tradition can really trace a direct line back to Atisha. So, the approach of Apu and Lord Atisha is to begin by meditating on your present mother. Yes, your mother. Everybody always says that this is not appropriate for our society because so many of us have mother issues. And some people had really abusive mothers, so you'll have to use somebody else as maybe it'll be your grandmother, someone who was kind to you when you were a child. But most of us, our mothers are all right. I'm standing up for the mothers today. Hey, Lori. Hi there. Lori says hello. Lori, you're a diehard. Thank you so much for coming. So, Lori's a mother. And once we get out of, sometimes there are things in our 20s where we just think our mother is the worst person in the world. And then in our 30s or 40s or 50s, when we've lived through the things that they lived through, we don't view it necessarily that way. But actually, what I see in this teaching is that Khenpo Ngagga acknowledges that our mothers were mixed. It acknowledges the good and the bad in our moms. And I think it's a fair assessment. So, of the general human race. So, according to Rigzen Jigme Lingpa, another great Tibetan Lama of the 18th century, you meditate by concentrating on a sentient being on the point of being killed, such as a sheep going to the slaughter, or on someone who is sick and suffering, and then considering that they are either you or your old mother. You can meditate on yourself or your mom, and imagine them on the point of death. Maybe those people were a little tougher than we are. Some of us are softies, and that's a little hard, but let's go for it. Anyway, let us suppose that as a beginner, you start by meditating on your own mother. Picture this old mother of yours in front of you, clearly, exactly as she is. Begin by acknowledging that she has been your mother not only once, but many times over. So this is predicated here on a belief in past lives. Many, many past lives, and so many countless billions of past lives. This is kind of more of a Buddhist idea rather than a New Age reincarnation idea. That this mind stream has flowed based on karma from one lifetime to the next, and we've been every kind of living being. We've had every kind of relationship. We've probably been related to pretty much everybody at this point, and maybe more than once, different relationships. It's interesting to think about when this was written, how many people were on the planet, how many people Khenpo Ngagga would have seen in his entire life. No television, nothing, and compare it to now. Billions and billions of people on the planet, and at the touch of a button, we can see thousands of living beings. Just a thought. So just remember her kindness. And what was she kind about? She gave you your body. There's no making that up. That's absolutely a fact. She provided for your material needs. Let's hope that she did. Mine certainly did, and as did my father. She put up with all matters of difficulty and hardship, including me being a brat, screaming, having a meltdown at my own birthday party that she carefully arranged for me, and losing it with all the other kids, probably based on sugar ODing. Did you have an experience like that? But you can imagine Tibetan society, how much hardship a woman would have to go through in a rural agrarian society with no medical care to speak of. In putting up with all manner of difficulties and hardship, and fondly looking after you and watching over you by day and guarding you through the night. And her kindness in teaching you the ways of the world. She taught you to talk. Most likely she did. When you did not know how to talk, how to walk, when you did not know how to walk. So she taught you to talk, how to walk. She taught you how to eat. She taught you most likely how to put your clothes on when you didn't even know how to get dressed. Remember that? Remember your leg being pushed through those little pants? Or into a skirt, your body being put into a skirt. She cared for you from youth all the way into adulthood until you really knew how to take care of yourself and understood the ways of the world, right? Then remember, from a Dharma point of view, you got this precious human life that we talk about, where you've been exposed to Dharma and you've practiced some Dharma. Thanks to this body and all these teachings about how to safely traverse into adulthood and beyond through the kindness of your mother. There wouldn't be any precious human birth without your mother, and she certainly, if nothing else, had to go through labor and a pregnancy, and that's hard, very hard. Next, give rise to the wish to repay her kindness. What is it such a kind mother as this would want? What would she want? What she wants is to be happy, right? We all want to be happy, like I said, like the Dalai Lama says again and again. And yet she doesn't know how to achieve this by herself, the causes of happiness. Mainly faith, the determination to be free of samsara, and bodhicitta. She does not have a teacher, a spiritual friend, and even if she did have one, she would not carry out his instructions. That's really true. That's true. Even though my mother was a spiritual person and meditated, she didn't have a teacher of this, any one teacher or any one tradition to really go deeply delve into. A wonderful person, and I'm not criticizing her spiritual path, but there's a lot of things she didn't understand that are really only present in the Buddhist teachings. Dare I say it. In The Way of the Bodhisattva by Shantideva, it says, "They long for joy, but in their ignorance destroy it, as they would a hated enemy." That's referring to us ordinary sentient beings. We think we're going to be happy, but when we have an opportunity to create the causes of happiness, it's like we're doing the opposite, and we think we're by. And how is that so? We think by being happy, this external hard drive, I can't quite pull it out hard enough, my computer, that's going to make me happy? No, it made me happy for a few hours. Every now and then I think I'm thankful that I have this fancy computer that I can do this kind of live streaming with. It takes a lot of power, but it's not going to create any kind of lasting happiness for me, is it? Nor is a car, nor is sex, nor is love, even all the hugs in the world. I haven't had a hug in 7 months, and I would love a hug, but It's not good. It's not going to give me lasting happiness. So mom doesn't want any of the sufferings of the three worlds of samsara, and the three worlds refers to the realms of we'll say six realms. We're talking about five of the realms. They're classing ghosts, hell beings, animals, humans, demigods, all in one category. And then gods with a form in another category, and gods without a form. Fuzzy wuzzy gods. Formless gods and goddesses. They're all part of cyclic existence. And that's called the three realms. Three worlds, they're calling it here. She doesn't even want the paltry discomfort of being struck by a tiny spark from a fire or pricked by a thorn. And yet she creates the very cause of suffering, negative actions. When she performs physical actions, they are unvirtuous. And clearly, it was how his mother was, or somebody else. So she had a mother in mind. When she talks, her words are unvirtuous, gossip, criticism, negative talk. How many of us have done that? I have. When she thinks, her thoughts are unvirtuous. How many of us have had nasty thoughts this week? So what she truly desires and what she does are completely at odds. And she's harmed directly on account of the truth of suffering, and harmed or indirectly on account of the truth of the origin of suffering. So she's got suffering as a result of past actions of her body, speech, and mind that she followed through on and did. Negative things in the past, such as killing. And then there is both the cause of suffering and the suffering that results, and the cause of suffering, continuously accruing the causes of suffering, but not realizing that harming any sentient being is a cause of suffering. She has both the cause of suffering and the suffering that results. The suffering of this life sends her on her way. The suffering of the next life waits to greet her, and the suffering of the intermediate state, the bardo, helps her across. So this continuous wheel of going around from the intermediate time of this life, the intermediate time of where you're actively dying, the intermediate time of a vast expanse of total truth that often goes by in a flash, called the bardo, or intermediate state of dharmata, and then the intermediate state of becoming, sort of being the forces of karma shaping you into who you're going to be, and then back into this life. So round and around through these bardos. I'm thinking of Trungpa Rinpoche's teachings on the word bardo. I think I remember it properly. Do is stone, and bar is between, the middle, that kind of thing. So like hopping from one stone to another, and then the transitions in between them. This is the way the bardos, the intermediate states, are thought of in Tibetan Buddhism. Yeah. So I'm just going to go on a little bit more, getting a little long, but I just want to go through this in the classical way with you, so you see what it's like. And that is not all, for when the negative actions she has committed, just for her sake alone, are fully ripened, quarreling and disputing with people, fighting off dogs, and even just crushing a single head louse, She will have to wander amid the sufferings, infinite sufferings of the hell realms. She does not even recognize the danger of negative acts and see that they are the cause of suffering. She does not recognize the benefits of positive actions. And so, day and night, without break, she surrounds herself constantly with suffering. When you think, poor thing, how terrible, it is this very kind of mother who is the object of your compassion. So, maybe your mother did everything virtuous and never killed a mouse in the kitchen, like my mom did, or roaches, and never killed ants intentionally, you know, ignorant to the negative impact of that on this and future lives. Good, but think of someone else who's, so we can all think of people like this. Maybe we love them and don't like them. Maybe we like them and don't love them. Maybe we dislike them. And it's very hard to feel any concern or compassion for them when we hear calamity has befallen them. They have COVID-19, you know, maybe their little bit of glee comes up. So, what's the practice? Meditate like that. May she be freed from the cause of suffering and all her karma and negative emotions. If only she were free. If only she were free. I shall be the one to free her. And you pray to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha that this person will be freed from suffering and the causes of suffering. So the practice then is to go start with your mother or someone that you love, but they have non-virtuous, they are unaware of Dharma, law of cause and effect, or any deeper form of Dharma. And so in this way, you can think of the person that right now, say as a politician or someone in your personal life who's been really abusive, untrustworthy, lying, backbiting, smearing your name all over town. And this is how you get a new handle on that situation. This is how you can become the person that you really want to be, but aren't yet, who can see that they're incurring suffering on themselves, haplessly going around wreaking havoc, which will only cause harm to themselves, ultimately, in the meantime causing harm to one person after another, so many waves of repercussions going on, harm. And then extend it to, you know, your uncles and your aunts, and extended family, he said in here. And then you can go out to a larger and larger area. Then you go to like, oh, your household and your block. And then out to your state, and your nation, and the whole world, and the whole universe, and beyond the universe. And with each step you say, may this person and all sentient beings be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. Picture them like that. And then so you do this as a formal practice, which we're going to do now. And then you move on to real life, off the cushion. And he says in here a little later, this is for the late comers. This is Kempo Ngaga, or Kempo Ngawang Palsong. His commentary on the words of my perfect teacher by Patrul Rinpoche. And he's teaching how to be compassionate. And not just a limited compassion, but a limitless compassion. And I think next week we'll do a more, take this to different levels, but this is the fundamental level of this practice. So I think I'm going to ring the triangle, unless I have a better sound. I don't think a glockenspiel is going to do it. There's a glockenspiel. Oh, it's pretty good. Or a party noisemaker. No, we tend to go. I don't. I haven't found a. I haven't found a like a gong or something yet, but I've got plenty of access to sounds these days. So first of all, let's try to relax and just let our system power down. Meditate for a moment, then we'll go through step by step. Now, starting with a person it's easiest to feel compassion for, easier to feel this wish well up, that they will be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. Find that person, that perhaps your mother. Gosh, and we're supposed to go to them on their deathbed, aren't we? I haven't heard that one before. It's pretty powerful. If you can do it, do it. If you can't do it, don't do it. It's okay. Picture that person. Really from deep down, sincerely, may she be free of suffering. May she be free of the causes of suffering. Now you can move to the next person or a group of people in your family or the people that are close to you, who you love. Picture them all on their deathbed. May you be free of suffering. May you be free of the root of suffering. The people at your workplace, people at the stores you go to in the course of your day that you always say hello to, if you still go to stores. people in those groups on Zoom. Feel from the bottom of your heart, that concern. May you be free from suffering and the roots of suffering. Bring it out to the people in your community. Maybe you don't know them, you don't have an opinion one way or another about them. Picturing them say, may you be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. And then try to bring the whole world of people and animals. Animals are always easy, right? Nearly always. Bring them into your compassion. May you be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. Notice where you feel it in your body. Be present in your body with this. Let's bring it out to the whole universe. May you be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. All of you, each and every one. That is, so then we working with the people that, it's probably humans, but it could be some scoundrel animal that's giving you a hard time, but most likely it's a human. Often our worst hatred is reserved for politicians, sometimes lawyers. Sorry, lawyers, if you're out there. Ex-husbands, ex-wives. And picture that worst person. May you be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. So you gotta love a religion that does that, huh? What is it? Where in the world? I mean, lots of religions preach love and compassion. But how many really have practices like this? They put you a little bit through the ringer, and it's kind of you have to, you have to cultivate compassion. You must. And I think in the beginning, I just decided I wanted to be that kind of person. Am I now? I'm a little better, after 20 some years. I think I'm okay. And I keep working on it all the time, one way or another. Another way that compassion can blossom in you is if you have there's these breakthrough experiences, which are called nyam, or experience, fleeting often, or sometimes lasting a few hours or days, where one has a taste of emptiness, which just, in a way, it just means your entire, you suddenly realize that you've fabricated the whole universe of your experience based on habitual thinking, craving, aversion, and a web of lies. It doesn't have any basis whatsoever. I won't call the emptiness a blank slate, because it's got juicy qualities. But when you suddenly are faced with the fact that everything you hold true is not true, and there's a perception, direct perception of the open, infinite, actual state of being, of existence, non-existence, neither extreme, of everything that is ineffable, can't be described in words, and you can see I'm failing. If you have that kind of experience, even if it's just for a moment, your whole life has changed. And almost instantaneously, this kind of compassion for everyone wells up. You don't have to you don't have to suffer. You want everybody to know they don't have to suffer. And even if that experience passes, which all experiences do, and it's not as you lose that feeling, and you go on and keep watching CNN and Breitbart or whatever it is you're into, and stoking up concepts, more and more concepts laid on top of actual reality, which is open, infinite. Where was I going with that sentence? Even if it's just brief, it changes your life. And so that's why these are paired. The practices like this that cultivate compassion, and practices that cultivate the having a direct experience of some kind with the ultimate. And so you can cultivate either side, and it gets to the same place. You're going to end up like the Dalai Lama, completely, clear, crystalline. Like I was thinking today, it's like sometimes the Buddha Vajrasattva is depicted, the sort of universal Buddha, is depicted as not just white, but made of crystal, actually, like translucent, completely translucent and free from all the baloney that our limited mind has taught us. Matarchi used to say, it's like your skull's being blown open. I haven't had that experience exactly. I think he had. It's a whole shift. And it can deepen and deepen and deepen with practice. Alrighty. So do you have any questions, guys? I only have 2 people here, but so we start every practice when we're doing a session. I didn't do it just then, but when we're doing a normal session at home, we always generate the enlightened intention that all our practice will lead us to complete awakening, so then we can lead all sentient beings to that same state. Sometimes they'll say, by yourself alone. By myself alone, beings to complete. Wow, the internet went out, and I got a thumbs up while I was gone. I just vanished somewhere. I hope after I dedicated merit. So, what an old dedication merit is: by this merit, may I obtain omniscience. May it defeat the enemy wrongdoing. From the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of samsara, may I free all beings. So what I was saying before I was interrupted by a bad internet connection was we're going to really go into depth on the precious bodhicitta. My friend Aaron Weiss. Heike, hello. My friend Aaron Weiss is going to be doing some teaching for us next year, I think. A Dharma scholar taught me that you say bodhicitta, not bodhicitta, like we all say. So in Sanskrit. So that's where he reads Sanskrit. So we'll be talking about precious bodhicitta for the next few months. Chitta. See, I went back to Chitta. Heike. Heike is a wonderful yogini in Asia. I had the great honor of meeting. Oh, I can't drag you. I can't drag your quote. Too bad. I was going to throw your quote up on the screen. Anyway, nice to see you, Heike. And I want to give everybody a heads up that who listen to this afterwards that we're going to be starting something big next year. Big things are coming for my foundation, and we're starting a brand new program, and it's a secret now. Don't tell anyone exactly what it is, but because I'm not going to tell you, you can't tell them. But there's going to be a big announcement coming, and to hear about that, to be the first in line to hear about that, you'll have to sign up for our email list at the Mayum Mountain Foundation. Mayum, M-A-Y-U-M. Foundation, no, I'm sorry, Mayum Mountain. .net, mayummountain.net. I think there might be a call out up at the top of the screen there for that. You can just click and go right to it. At any rate, if you sign up for our email list, then you'll be in the know. And please like and subscribe. Helps the word get out. Alrighty. Well, you guys have a great week, and I'll see you next week for more about the precious bodhicitta, where we'll be focusing on joy. All right. Well, let's be joyful next week. We'll learn how to be joyful maybe all the time. Bye.